The blue toothbrush went missing first. Not my socks. Not my charger. Not even the leftovers she always accidentally throws out when she's reorganizing the fridge. No. It was the stupid, worn-out, drugstore brand blue toothbrush, the one I always left in the ceramic cup on the sink, leaning against hers like they were holding hands. That's what disappeared. I noticed it the morning she wore the beige sweater I told her made her look like warm bread that used to make her smile. That day she didn't smile. She didn't say anything. Just pulled her hair into a bun, took the car keys, and left before I even finished brushing my now non-existent teeth. And that's when it hit me, she's been slowly removing me. Not from the house, no, my name's still on the lease. But from the space. From the little corners of life where love used to sit. I checked later, my razor was pushed behind the body wash. My hoodie, the one she used to steal, was in the laundry basket, untouched. And my toothbrush? Just gone. Not replaced. Not moved. Gone. Now, maybe most people wouldn't panic over a toothbrush. But I'm not most people. I'm Wendell. And I notice everything. I track conversations like weather patterns. I remember the exact time she stopped holding my hand in public, last Thursday, 5:42 p.m. outside the Thai place where she ordered for one. I remember the way she used to say MMM when I kissed her shoulder. She hasn't said that in 11 days. And I know what you're thinking. Wendell, maybe it's all in your head. Maybe she's just tired. Maybe you're overreacting. But that toothbrush was my warning sign. It said, you've become unnecessary. And the worst part? A week ago she told me I was suffocating her. That I check in too much. That I hover when she's cooking and that she feels watched when I ask how her day went. So I stopped. I let her move freely. I didn't text. I didn't ask. I didn't wait for her at the door when she got home from her late-night strategy meetings. I backed off like she wanted. And last night, she stood at the kitchen sink, wine glass in one hand, phone in the other, and said, I don't feel like you care anymore. She said it casually. Like she was commenting on the weather. Like I hadn't just spent weeks studying her silences like they were sacred texts. I wanted to say, you erased me one drawer at a time. I wanted to scream, you made rules I followed and now you're mad I followed them. But instead, I just nodded like an idiot. Then she asked if we could talk tomorrow. And she smiled, not kindly, not cruelly. Just like she was already somewhere else. I checked the sink this morning. Her toothbrush was still there. Alone. I think she knows I noticed. And I think she wants me to ask about it. But I won't. Not yet. Because something bigger is coming. I can feel it. This isn't just distance. This is preparation. And I'm scared to find out what happens next. I didn't go snooping. I want to make that clear. I wasn't rifling through her purse or checking her browser history like some paranoid sitcom husband. No. It was the wind's fault if we're assigning blame. The gust that knocked her handbag off the hallway bench when I opened the front door, arms full of groceries she didn't ask for and probably didn't want. I bent down to pick up the lipstick that rolled under the heater, and that's when I saw it, a folded piece of paper stuck half-tucked inside the side pocket. A receipt. Not just any receipt. A long one. Crisp, recent. I didn't mean to look. I swear I didn't. But my eyes caught the bold print at the top, Fiorenzo's Bistro, and my stomach dropped like it had just lost its lease on reality. Fiorenzo's isn't some casual spot. It's our special place. Was our special place? The tiny Italian restaurant we found on accident one winter when her boots were soaked and I carried her over a snowbank. We go there every anniversary. We even had a joke with the owner, Carlo, who always brought her a free tiramisu because a woman that pretty shouldn't wait for dessert. The date on the receipt? 2 nights ago. The order? Appetizers, entrees, drinks, and yes, 1 tiramisu. 2 people. One of them wasn't me. My hands were shaking so hard the paper nearly tore in half. I didn't know whether to put it back, confront her, or set the whole thing on fire and pretend I never saw it. I stood there like a confused scarecrow while the pasta in the bag slowly leaked sauce onto the floor. She came in minutes later, humming. Like people do in commercials when they've just gotten promoted or bought a new couch. She didn't notice the mess. Didn't notice me. Just walked to the fridge, grabbed a can of seltzer, and asked if I remembered to buy oat milk. I didn't answer. I couldn't. She turned around, raised an eyebrow. Wendell. And I cowered that I am said, yeah. It's in the bottom drawer. Then I stuffed the receipt into my back pocket like a criminal hiding evidence at the scene of his own robbery. I wish I could tell you I confronted her. I wish I had that in me. But I didn't. I spent that night watching her scroll through her phone while we sat in the same room, breathing the same air, but living entirely different lives. She laughed at something. Probably a meme. Maybe a message. I wouldn't know. She's put her phone on Do Not Disturb ever since I accidentally saw a text from someone named Jay. I stayed up until she fell asleep. Her back turned to me, like always lately, and I pulled out that receipt again, flattening it against the kitchen table. It was then I noticed something I had missed. Right at the bottom, scrawled in blue ink next to the tip line. Next time, desserts on me, winky face, Jay. I stared at that smiley face for nearly an hour. Jay, Reese's full name is Jonathan Reese. But that's not the part that really broke me. No. That came when I remembered something else. Something small. Something most people wouldn't even register. She hates tiramisu. Always has. Said it tastes like wet coffee cake. So why was it on the receipt? Because it wasn't her dessert. It was his. And she knew exactly what it meant when she ordered it. She remembered what Carlo always said. She just didn't expect me to ever see the evidence. That night, I didn't sleep. And the next morning, I did something I never do. I called in sick to work. Because I had a plan. I wasn't going to shout. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to observe. Because when someone erases your toothbrush, your space, your presence, sometimes the only way to find the truth is to watch how they replace you. I didn't shower that morning. Didn't brush my hair. Didn't bother to pretend I was off sick because of a cold. The lie sat in my throat like a stone, and it was still smaller than the truth I wasn't ready to say out loud. I sipped lukewarm coffee from the mug she bought me last Christmas that says Mr. Fix-It on the side, even though she barely lets me change a light bulb anymore. Every sip made me feel more pathetic. She left the house at 3:06 p.m. She didn't say goodbye. She never does anymore. Just grabbed her phone, her oversized tote bag, and here's the detail I can't let go of: she wore the red scarf. It's not even scarf season. It was 68 degrees. Breezy, sure, but not cold. That scarf is decorative. But what made it sting wasn't the weather, it was the memory attached to it. I gave her that scarf during our 3rd anniversary trip to Asheville. We were walking through the arts district and she stopped in front of a window display and said, "This color makes me feel bold." I bought it on the spot while she was in the restroom. She cried when I gave it to her. Said no one ever remembered things the way I did. She hasn't worn it in 2 years. Not until today. So I followed her. I know how that sounds. I know. Believe me, I've heard it all. Trust is the foundation of marriage. You're being paranoid, maybe you're projecting. But sometimes trust isn't enough when your gut is screaming louder than your conscience. I waited 2 full blocks before I started walking. Kept my distance. Hat pulled low, hoodie zipped, trying to look like just another loser walking around with nowhere to be. She walked fast. Purposefully. No wandering, no detours. That's when I knew this wasn't a casual errand. She had a destination and it wasn't Target. At exactly 4:17 p.m. I watched her duck into a little cafe called Fennel and Fig. You ever have a moment where time stretches and shrinks all at once? Like you're holding your breath underwater and suddenly everything's moving in slow motion while your heart's punching a hole in your ribs? That's what it felt like as I stood across the street, pretending to check my phone while she sat down at a corner booth. With him. Jonathan Reese. Even from the sidewalk, I could see it, the ease. The way her whole posture changed. She leaned in like she used to with me when she cared about everything I had to say. He laughed too loudly, the kind of laugh men use when they're trying to impress someone. And then she did the thing where she reached across the table and touched his wrist when he made a joke. That move used to belong to me. I ducked behind the flower stand outside a bookstore, trying to keep myself steady. I felt my knees give a little, like the truth had suddenly gotten heavier than my skeleton could carry. They were there for a full hour. I didn't record anything. I didn't take pictures. This wasn't about proof. This wasn't for a courtroom or a confrontation. This was for me to kill the last of the hope I was still secretly feeding like a stray cat under the porch. At 5:21, they left. Together. They didn't hold hands. They didn't kiss. But her body walked like it belonged next to his. Like she was drifting toward him without trying. They stood by his car, not too close, but close enough for something to be there, and she laughed again. That laugh that's been missing from our house for months. And then she got in his car. She texted me 5 minutes later. Staying late at the office. Don't wait for dinner. 5 words. 5 casual, cold, clinical words. I read them 6 times while standing alone by the sidewalk, watching her drive away in another man's car, wearing the red scarf I gave her. I didn't reply. I walked home. When I got there, I stood in the hallway staring at our wedding photo. I'm holding her from behind. She's leaning into me with a sleepy smile like she's finally safe. That girl is gone. Or maybe she was never there the way I imagined. But I'm still here. And I'm tired of feeling like a ghost in my own marriage. I didn't sleep that night either. I laid in bed listening to her breathe beside me when she came home, late, just like she said. She smelled like hotel soap and something floral. She rolled over and muttered, "You're still awake?" I said nothing. She fell asleep within minutes. And in that silence I realized she doesn't think I know. But I do. And I'm going to keep pretending I don't because I need to know how deep this goes. Tomorrow I'm going back to that cafe. Not to spy on her. To talk to someone who's seen what I saw every single day. Because baristas always remember faces. And I'm ready to ask questions. I waited until noon the next day. Not because I was scared though, let's be real, fear was chewing holes in my gut, but because I didn't want to run into her. Tessa was working remotely, or so she said, and I knew if I hung around the house I'd either stare at her until she noticed something was wrong, or I'd snap and say everything I'd been rehearsing in my head like a madman in front of the bathroom mirror. I needed answers before emotion got the better of me. Real, human answers. Not assumptions or receipts. And that meant going back to Fennel and Fig. The place wasn't as fancy in the daylight. The string lights didn't twinkle as romantically. The air smelled more like burnt coffee than artisan pastries. But it was still theirs, their hideout, their cozy corner where she laughed like she'd never known marriage. I stood outside for a good minute pretending to check Yelp reviews I didn't need to read. My hand was sweaty on the door handle. I hated that I felt like the intruder. Inside, the barista at the counter had a green buzz cut and a nose ring. Maybe 19, maybe 20. Her apron read Cass in bold sharp lettering. She glanced up when I walked in, then went back to wiping down the espresso machine like I was just another man trying to remember his order. I walked to the counter slowly, trying to hide the tremble in my voice. "Hey," I said, smiling like someone who still had pride. "Could I ask you something weird?" She raised one eyebrow, not stopping her wiping. Weirder than the guy last week who asked for a decaf macchiato with oat foam and half a shot of espresso but only if it was ethically sourced? I forced a chuckle. I think my wife comes here. With a guy. I'm not trying to be creepy or cause trouble. I just need to know. Cass didn't answer right away. She studied me like I was a test she hadn't prepared for, then slowly set the rag down. Tall brunette? Always wears scarves. I nodded. Red scarf yesterday. Yeah, she said, leaning against the counter. She's been coming in for a while. Tuesdays and Thursdays. Sometimes Fridays. Always around 4. They take the corner booth near the ficus. Order the same thing, she gets lavender tea, he gets the hazelnut cold brew. They split a pastry. He calls her tea, and she laughs like it's the funniest letter in the alphabet. I felt something inside me crack. But I stayed still. You said, a while? She nodded again. First time I saw them together was, like, February maybe? Definitely before spring. Thought they were married until he kissed her hand one time and she got all nervous like she thought someone was watching. My heart went cold. February. That was before she asked me to give her some breathing room. Before the toothbrush. Before the missing laughter. Before I started fading out of focus in my own home. I'm sorry, Cass said suddenly, her voice softer. I didn't mean to make it worse. You looked like you needed the truth. I nodded, blinking faster than I wanted to. Thanks. I did. I ordered a coffee I didn't want just so I wouldn't walk out empty-handed. Cass didn't charge me. As I left, I realized something. They'd been building a second relationship while I was busy trying not to ruin the first. While I was worrying about being too much, she was giving everything to someone who thought my wife's quirks were exciting instead of exhausting. I remembered how she used to tease me for over-explaining things. You always narrate your life like it's a novel, she once said. But maybe Reese or Jay liked the narration. Maybe he asked her what kind of shampoo she used and actually waited for the answer. I walked home, coffee in hand, heart barely holding its shape. And when I got there, she was on the couch with her laptop open, pretending to work. Her hair was tied up. Her phone was face down on the cushion beside her. Hey, she said casually like we were still on the same page. Did you get milk? I stared at her for a moment too long. Yeah, I said finally, setting the coffee down on the counter. And some answers. She looked up confused. What? But I didn't say anything else. Not yet. I needed to plan the next step. Carefully. Because this wasn't just about a confession anymore. This was about me. About choosing whether I wanted to be the man who got erased, or the man who left before the page turned completely. That night, while she slept, I logged into our shared Amazon account. She hadn't logged out. I checked the purchase history. A black silk robe. A bottle of Midnight Orchid perfume. And a gift note that read, "Can't wait to see you in this. Jay." She hadn't bought anything for me in 6 months. And just like that, the last thread snapped. She said it was a book club. That was her excuse every other Friday for the past few months. It's just a few girls from the wellness workshop, Wendell. We rotate houses, drink wine, talk about self-growth stuff. You wouldn't like it. And to be fair, she wasn't wrong. I probably wouldn't like it not because I'm some grumpy, beer-bellied sitcom husband who doesn't get feelings, but because I knew when she looked me in the eyes and said those words, something in her face twitched. It was always in her mouth. She couldn't lie without pressing her lips together at the end of the sentence. Just like her mother. So when this particular Friday rolled around and she casually said she'd be home late from book club chapters long this week, I already had the Uber app open. She wore that silk robe the night before. Not around me, of course. I found the empty packaging in the trash under a crushed cereal box. And the perfume, that stupid, cloying midnight orchid, she sprayed it on her wrist when she thought I was asleep, then wiped it off with a guilty look in the mirror. I watched from the bathroom crack. I didn't even blink. She left at 7:09 p.m. sharp. Always punctual when lies are involved. I gave it 10 minutes, then called the Uber. Not to follow her, not this time. I didn't need to see her with him again. I needed to see where she kept vanishing to, where she felt safe enough to create a parallel life I was never invited into. The driver, Marcus, was silent the entire way. I was grateful for that. I had too many possible scenarios in my head to make small talk. Maybe she really was going to someone's house. Maybe she was doing something innocent and I was the paranoid clown I feared I'd become. We drove across town, not toward any neighborhood I recognized, but past the industrial strip, past the all-night yoga studio, down a quiet block I'd never had reason to visit. And then we stopped. He pointed with his thumb. "You sure this is it?" I didn't answer right away. I was too busy staring at the building. It was a hotel. Not fancy, not grimy. One of those boutique places that tries to feel edgy with its rooftop bar and ironic wallpaper. A place you don't check into unless you're avoiding something. Or someone. I walked in through the side entrance. No one questioned me, why would they? I looked like a guy meeting someone. I even smiled at the concierge like I belonged there. I slipped around the back, found the elevators, and then did what I had spent hours telling myself I wouldn't do. I waited. In the hallway. Behind a potted plant. Like a pathetic, rejected husband in a soap opera. But this was my life, not a show. And I was tired of pretending I didn't see what was right in front of me. At 9:18 p.m., the elevator doors opened. She stepped out. Not alone. He was behind her, too close for casual, too familiar for innocent. They weren't touching, but her posture told the truth. She was leading him like she had done with me once, like she had done with every man who believed in her warmth. She glanced around, instinctively scanning. She didn't see me. I was buried in shadows and cowardice. But I saw everything. Room 426. That's where they went. I waited another 10 minutes before leaving. Not because I didn't believe it, but because walking felt like betrayal to my own bones. Every step away from that hallway felt like I was abandoning the part of me that still wanted to wake up and find this was all some bad dream. But I walked anyway. I got home before she did. I knew she'd sneak in through the back door, toss her coat on the dining chair, maybe even pour herself a glass of wine to sell the illusion. And she did. Right on cue. I watched her from the dark of the hallway. She didn't even notice me. She stood at the kitchen sink, humming, typing something on her phone. Then she called out, "Book club ran late." Bridget's cat puked on the carpet. You know how it is. I stood behind her. Still silent. She didn't turn around. I whispered, "Room 426. And I swear to you, Reddit, the glass slipped from her hand before I even finished the last syllable. She didn't say anything. She didn't scream or deny it. She just froze, shoulders locked, breath held, like a statue chiseled out of guilt. I walked past her and went to bed. No yelling. No drama. Because I realized something in that moment. She didn't deserve my rage. She deserved my absence. But I wasn't going to leave just yet. Not until I made her feel what it's like to be erased, one quiet breath at a time. She didn't sleep that night. I heard her breathing sharp, uneven, restless. She tossed and turned while I lay perfectly still, facing the wall, eyes wide open. I didn't move. I didn't say a word. Just listened as her guilt kept her awake like a ghost pacing between the cracks of her conscience. And still, she never said my name. I think that's what hit me hardest. Not the affair. Not the lies. But the way she never even used my name. Like I'd become background noise. The hum of the fridge. The squeak of the floorboards near the kitchen. Familiar. Expected. Ignored. So I decided to disappear. Not dramatically. Not with suitcases or ultimatums. But gradually, like her love for me had done. The next morning I got up before her. Normally, I'd leave a cup of coffee for her on the counter just the way she likes it, 2 sugars, splash of oat milk, stir twice. That day, I made 1 mug. Mine. I didn't turn on the kettle again. She came downstairs 15 minutes later, hair still in a knot, eyes puffy from the guilt that probably hadn't fully sunk in yet. She walked past me and opened the cupboard, pausing when she saw no mug waiting for her. "Did you make coffee?" she asked, tone cautious but light. I took a sip. "Just needed one today." She stared at me as if waiting for more. A fight. A question. An opening. But I gave her none of those. Just silence and steam rising from my mug. She stood there for a few seconds, then grabbed her keys and left. No goodbye. No apology. Perfect. Later that day, I started rearranging things. Small things. I removed my toothbrush from the bathroom. Not to the trash. Just to my drawer in the guest room. She never used that bathroom. She wouldn't even notice, not right away. I deleted the grocery list app we shared. She wouldn't realize it until she opened it and found it blank. Like I'd never contributed anything. I unsubscribed from the streaming account we both used and signed into my own under a different email. She'd still have access to the main one, but my watch history gone. My presence gone. I unfollowed her on Spotify. She used to send me playlists. Said every song reminded her of me. I hadn't gotten one in over a year, so I erased the ones I'd made for her. Songs for Tessa. Her laugh in G major. Anniversary drive. All deleted. She wouldn't notice immediately, but one day she might scroll and feel the hole. And I didn't stop there. The next night, I cooked dinner like usual. Grilled salmon, lemon rice, roasted carrots, her favorite. I set the table for one. Just one. Me. I didn't ask when she'd be home. I didn't text to check. I just ate quietly at the table, left her portion in the oven without a note, and went to bed with the door shut. At 10:41 p.m., she knocked. "Wendell, can we talk?" I didn't answer. She tried the knob. Locked. I heard her sigh. A long, breathy thing. Like the sound of someone realizing they just stepped out of a house and locked the keys inside. For the next week, I kept going. Quiet withdrawal. Silent reclamation. She started to unravel faster than I expected. First came the overcompensation. She asked if I wanted to join her for a walk. I declined. She offered to pick up takeout. I already ate. She bought oat milk again, even though she knows I've always hated it. It sat untouched in the fridge like an artifact from a life we no longer shared. Then came the guilt rage spiral. One night, she cornered me in the hallway and said, "Are you punishing me?" I looked at her calmly. "For what?" She flinched. Not dramatically. Just the tiniest twitch, like a spark catching in dry grass. "You know what?" I nodded slowly. "I do. And now you do too." That's when her mask cracked. She said my name for the first time in weeks. "Wendell, please." And it felt like someone had carved it from her throat with a spoon. Desperate. Uncomfortable. Raw. But it was too late. Because I had already begun the most painful part of the disappearing act. Erasing myself from the parts of her life that still expected me to be present. I logged out of our shared calendar. No more dentist appointments or reminders for her sister's birthday or couples counseling that I had been pushing for a year, and she kept rescheduling. I even stopped reminding her to take her iron pills. She's always tired and forgets, but that's not my role anymore. And the next morning, I did something that scared even me. I left a note on the fridge. Not angry, not poetic, just honest. "I'm not punishing you. I'm just practicing life without you." Turns out I remember how. When she came down and saw it, I watched from the hallway. She stood frozen in front of the fridge for a full minute. And then she cried. Not softly, not subtly, but like she'd just realized the one thing she thought would always be there was quietly, permanently slipping away. The thing about silence is it doesn't startle anyone at first. It's slow like fog rolling in. First, it's just quiet. Then suddenly you can't see what's ahead of you anymore. And if you stand in it too long, you start wondering if anyone's still standing with you at all. That's what my silence became for Tessa. Not a punishment, a mirror. After she read the note on the fridge, she didn't speak to me for 2 days. Not a word, not a sigh, just glances that tried to measure how far I drifted. I let her guess. Let her squirm in the space she used to beg for. I watched her realize that space doesn't feel like freedom when no one's waiting at the edge of it. Then came Sunday. She sat across from me at the breakfast table like a stranger trying to solve a riddle. I didn't cook for her. Didn't ask how she slept. She tried to read, pretended she was relaxed, but her fingers kept tapping the same sentence over and over again. Finally, she asked, "Are you seeing someone?" The question stunned me. Not because I didn't expect it, but because I realized how little she understood me. That's where her mind went. She assumed withdrawal meant replacement, as if I was playing tit-for-tat with her betrayal. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to say, "No, Tessa, I'm not seeing anyone. I'm finally seeing myself." But I didn't say anything. I just sipped my tea and turned the page. She pushed her chair back and left the room. That afternoon, she tried to act normal. Asked if I wanted to watch a movie. I said I had a headache. She made popcorn anyway, sat on the couch in silence, scrolling through titles she wasn't going to finish. I watched her from the hallway, back hunched slightly, blanket pulled up, eyes flicking toward the stairs like she was hoping I'd come down. I didn't. Monday, she was late to work. She hadn't been late in years. Her routine used to be military precise: wake at 6:30, shower by 6:45, makeup by 7, out the door by 7:30. This time, she didn't get out of bed until after 8. She burned the toast, dropped her compact on the bathroom floor. I found the shards still in the sink when I went in after her. She didn't clean it up. That night, she cooked dinner. Chicken marsala, my favorite. I didn't ask for it. She hadn't made it in over a year. She plated 2 servings, lit a candle, turned off the overhead lights. When I came downstairs, she was sitting there, fork poised like she was posing for a Hallmark ad that came 20 months too late. "It's your favorite," she said, eyes hopeful. "I even found the old wine you like." I sat down. I ate. It was delicious. But I didn't compliment her. I didn't ask where she found the wine. I didn't fill the silence she used to call mine. When we finished, I stood up and said, "Thanks," and nothing more. Her face collapsed like a folding chair. That's when the begging started. "Wendell, please talk to me," she whispered. "I can't do this. I can't keep walking through this house feeling like I'm screaming into a void." I looked her right in the eye and said, "That's what you wanted. Space. Distance. Now you've got it." Her voice cracked. "Not like this." And I almost felt bad. Because she looked so small, clutching the hem of her sleeve like a child who just broke something they swore they'd take care of. But then I remembered room 426. I remembered the hand on Reese's wrist. I remembered the perfume and the playlists and all the times she rolled her eyes when I tried to love her too loudly. "You don't get to define what my hurt looks like," I said. "You built a life that didn't need me. Now you're just living in it." She broke down then. Full sobbing. Hands to her face, shoulders shaking. And the old version of me, the one she used to call clingy, too sensitive, too much, he wanted to reach out and hold her. Wipe her tears. Tell her we'd fix it. But that man was tired. He had been holding the marriage together with 2 fingers and a heartbeat for over a year while she threw rocks at the glass house they built. So I walked past her and went upstairs. Later that night, I heard her on the phone. Whispering. Angry. Scared. I didn't catch everything, but I heard enough. "He won't react. It's like he's gone." "No, I haven't told him because I can't lose both of you." Both of you. That word hit me harder than any confession ever could. I wasn't the only one slipping away from her. He was too. Good. Let her chase ghosts for once. Let her stand in the storm she created and wonder why no one's holding the umbrella anymore. Because the next part of my plan was already in motion. And this time she wouldn't see it coming. She left the house that Tuesday morning with mascara smudged at the corners of her eyes and hair she didn't bother straightening. She didn't speak to me. Didn't ask where I was going. Didn't even pretend to care about the day ahead. It was the first time I'd seen her truly unravel, not perform guilt, but wear it. Like it finally fit. I waited 30 minutes. Then I stood in the middle of our living room, our once home, and looked around. It was quiet. But not like the silence I'd used to punish her. This silence felt like peace. That morning, I rolled up every last thread of myself that I had quietly been peeling away over the past 2 weeks. I took the boxes I had packed slowly, one by one, and stacked them by the front door. I grabbed the duffel with my clothes, the folder with the lease to the small apartment I'd signed the day before, and the letter I wrote her, no anger, no bitterness, just clarity. I left that envelope on the kitchen table under her favorite coffee mug. The one that said, "Let it brew." Inside the letter, I wrote, "Tessa, you once said I was too present. Then you said I wasn't present enough. The truth is, I was never the problem. I was simply there, loving you in every way I knew how, and then holding on too long when you stopped reaching back. I won't hate you. I don't want revenge. I just want peace. So this is me stepping away, not as punishment, but as a gift to both of us. You don't have to pretend anymore, and I don't have to disappear piece by piece to feel worth something again. Take care of yourself. I really hope you do. Wendell. I walked out the front door just before noon. I didn't slam it, didn't look back. I caught a bus across town. The ride was quiet, warm, filled with strangers not asking me to be anything. And when I got to my new place, small, cluttered, but mine, I set my bags down and opened the windows. Sunlight poured in. And for the first time in over a year, I felt like I could breathe without waiting for someone to tell me I was doing it too loudly. 2 weeks later, I got a message from her. Just one line. I miss the way you used to see me. I stared at it for a long time. Then I powered off my phone. Because the truth was, I didn't miss how I used to see her. But I was starting to like how I saw myself again. And that, Reddit, is where I'll leave this story. Not bitter, not broken, just finally whole and free.